Roxanne's story is really an amazing segue for us to go into a conversation with Bernadine Watson. And actually, Roxanne, that story of her organ donor activism started in 2015. And 8 years later, she's still very active because she believes that organ donors save lives. And so I'm really proud to introduce you. Hi, Dean.
Hi, Gwen.
Thank you for joining us. And honestly, I think that Roxanne's story, as I said, is not only a segue, but it's an opportunity to tee up this conversation about organ donors, and we're going to back into it for you.
Okay.
So your story is really an honest telling of the blood, sweat, tears, and triumph that you endured over decades. From your diagnosis of kidney disease in 1984, spoiler alert, to two kidney transplants, a lot of fits and starts, disappointments, and finally a precious gift of life that you embrace today. So I am so glad that you are joining us for Unerased Recorded Live and for this conversation with. Thank you.
I'm so glad to be here, Gwen.
So Bernadine's new book, which you saw on the screen, and I have it right here, Transplant, a memoir. Um, for many years, your illness was not only silent, and by the way, the topic of our show this month is confronting the silent killers of Black women. Yours was not only silent, it was a secret.
Mhm.
No one knew. What made you finally put this 40-year journey to words for the world to read? What? What?
Do you mean what made me write the book?
Yes. And well, it's not only writing the book, but taking a secret and making it a story for others to tell, to be told to others.
Yeah. Well, I think that I wanted to be well. I wanted to be well on a number of different levels, on a physical level, on a mental level, and on a spiritual level. And I came to believe uh, through lots of discussions with myself, through therapy, through starting to really take good physical care of myself and really be in kind of conversation with myself, that I needed to be more open about who I was and what had happened in my life. Um, and once I had gone through that second transplant, I thought that there was really nothing that I couldn't do. So I decided that I would do something I always wanted to do, which was write a book. And people always told me that my story was a fabulous, interesting story that could not only help me but help other people. I decided I decided to go ahead and write it. And I didn't want to let myself down. I
All
wanted to
right.
be someone that was okay being seen in the world.
Uh, uh,
So I decided that I needed to do that.
all right. So rewind to 2004,
Okay.
where you kind of kick off the storytelling. An unlikely location, the upscale neighborhood of DuPont Circle in downtown DC. In an inconspicuous office building on the basement level. There's a dialysis center. Take us to that place. What did it look like? How did it feel? Who was there? Tell us about it. Give us the visual.
I can remember my first day there today, and there are chills on my arms as I remember my husband driving me to the dialysis center, reluctantly leaving me there. And I walk into the building, and there is a guard at the door, and he just looks at me and says, "You must be going down, down." And I thought to myself, why does he think the only place I can go in this building of 6 floors, the only place I can go is down to dialysis? And that really enraged me because I thought, do I just look like a dialysis patient? I think there's a line in the book that says, "Is it all down from here?" Is it? But I went downstairs and I walked into that sitting room that was a sitting room that was full of Black people.
How many?
Black people.
How many?
I'm going to say in the sitting room, there were maybe 50 people. And everybody was Black. Some people, we were all waiting to get let into the dialysis center itself. I looked in the window and there were about 50 chairs there. There was a stench in the place that I remembered. This was my second time on dialysis that I remembered from the first time, but it really sunk into me this time because I did not know how long I was going to be on dialysis. Before I had a donor, I had no donor. This second time around.
What about that stench? What was it?
Well, I had asked about the stench at my old dialysis center, and a technician told me it was blood and cleaning fluid and the things that they used to clean the machines. It smelled like death to me. It smelled like urine and death. There were a lot of people sitting around with no legs. There were people sitting around that were blind. There were people that looked like they were fine. But there were some people eating fast food, and I knew you weren't supposed to do that. And I just felt like I was in the wrong place. I was in the wrong place. These people were not my people. I had been healthy my whole life. And now here I was when I was told that through my first transplant, my kidney would last for 20 years. And here I was again.
How many years after that? Let us know.
How many years? Was only 5 years.
You had a short stint. Your sister so generously gave of her kidney, and the kidney failed. And you end up on dialysis. People end up on dialysis because it's end-stage renal disease. Is that the reason why? I mean, I'm just asking you so you can confirm that.
Well, I have a disease. I still have it, even with kidney, called focal segmental glomerular sclerosis. When they told me that, I couldn't even pronounce it. FSGS, they say for short. And it is a disease that disproportionately affects African American people because it comes from a gene that people in Africa have, but that can be damaged. And if the genes are damaged, you are more likely to get this FSGS disease. One thing about it is that there is no cure, and it can come back even in a new kidney. So I have FSGS. It is predominant in Black people, and in 5 years, it came back, even though my sister was supposed to be a perfect match for me.
And Dean, the thing that's interesting when a patient is on dialysis, that means that their kidneys are either failing or in trouble, or what does that mean when
It
someone's
means that they do not have enough kidney function for their kidneys to work. The kidney has these little hairs, you would call them, and they're called glomeruli. And they filter the blood. When they're damaged, the blood can't be filtered, urine can't be produced, and the kidney eventually loses function. There is no cure for it. If there are all types of kidney disease, and some is caused by high blood pressure, some is caused by diabetes, two things that are prevalent in the African American community, and mine is caused by FSGS.
all
There,
right
you
now?
know,
And I think that clearly, I'm going to shift gears a little bit.
mm-hmm,
One of the things that comes through in the book is your plans for a good life.
mm,
I mean, you came from a struggling working class family, but you were smart, you worked hard, you were studious, you went to college, you got a good education, then you followed it with a good job, you were making decent money, you were having a profession, you ate reasonably well, you were healthy, you were never overweight, you exercised and even practiced yoga and meditation. Then at 33, you're hit with this insane diagnosis, FSGS, and I can't pronounce it, so I'm just going to use the initials. Why me?
yeah.
You ask that all the time. Answer that question for us.
Why me? I have two answers now. One, because I'm human, I'm flesh and blood. And a doctor once told me, sometimes your body lets you down. Things happen to you if you have a human body. And two, I'm African American. And because African Americans now, they don't know why exactly I have FSGS. I did not have high blood pressure. I did not have uh, uh, diabetes, but there are some genetic issues involved with FSGS that they're just starting to study now. That means that the disease can jump around in families. For example, my father is a diabetic. Maybe maybe I'm one of those African American people that has that damaged gene. We don't know. I'm getting genetic testing now to try to find out exactly why I got it. So why me? Because I'm Black and because I'm human. I am not special in that way. In the human
And
family, we get sick.
and this is an amazing thing, the transformation, because when we started the memoir, you were special. And like you said, these weren't my people.
Mm-hmm.
But the journey, and it was the blood, sweat, tears, and I'm going to get gross, the vomit
Mm-hmm.
that united you with those people. Um, is that true or not? Or how reflective is that of your circumstance?
Well, memoirs are your memories, and you can take all kinds of privilege with memory. But I think you summed it up pretty well. One of the things I wanted to do with this memoir was to be very, very honest, was to let people see me, because I think I am someone who can be somewhat, I don't want to say closed, but, I don't let a whole lot of people in to see what is going on with me. And I really thought that it was important for me to let people see what actually happened to me. And I wanted to be brave enough. That was also a shift that I wanted to go through in my life, to show people what happened to me. And You know, I watched other people get sick in dialysis because it's not a perfect treatment. The machine can take off too much liquid, liquid and make you sick. I've seen people die in dialysis. I've seen people vomit in dialysis. I didn't die, but everything that happened to other people in that room happened to me.
Yeah.
And I began to see that these actually were my people.
Mm-hmm.
One, they cared about me. People were telling me, "Oh, bring a blanket so you won't be cold." And oh, you're so cute. And I was just, oh, I couldn't stand it when the men would say that to me. But really, these were people expressing affection for me and inviting me into this community. And they were also people like the people I had grown up with.
Mm-hmm.
And who had made me kind of who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that no matter how many, no matter where you live, how many degrees you get, how healthy you think you are, you're still going to be Black in America.
Yes.
And that was, these were realizations that as I sat there in that dialysis center, that came to me. Day after day. And I had to try to deal with those realities while still maintaining who I was.
Yeah.
Because in some ways my life experience was different.
Yeah.
But that did not make me not Black. That did not make me not sick with kidney disease, which is something that happens to Black people.
And we saw the transformation. We read the transformation. We followed it. When women are ill, so is their entire family. Share with us how your kidney disease affected those closest to you.
Well, I come from a family of 7 people, 5 children. My father was dead by the time I had kidney disease, but my mother was alive, and I had to, I didn't tell my family for a long time that I had kidney disease because I had, in many ways, I had moved away from my family too. I was the one that got a college education. I was the one that went to grad school. I was the one that moved out of the neighborhood. But my family still loved me. And everybody in my family got tested to see if they could be my donor. My sister was the one who decided to do it because she was the oldest. The second time around, everybody got tested. But for various reasons, I couldn't get another kidney from my family. And that caused, that caused a lot of, I think some of them still feel bad that they were not able to do that for me. My husband, who I married in 2004, only about a half a year before I had kidney disease again, tried his best to take care of me. He would take me to dialysis every day and would have come back and gotten me if I hadn't insisted that I could drive myself home, who did everything that he could, to take care of me. And eventually ended up being a part of a kidney chain with me, where he was able to donate a kidney to someone so that I could get another kidney. He was not my
match.
He was not my match, but there's something called a kidney chain, where if I can bring a kidney to the table, I can get a kidney from someone else. And so he was right there with me, the whole time. My son was tested and was just in tears when he couldn't donate. So and I had a relative that I'm still protecting with silence who said she was going to be a donor and then ended up dropping out. That is not unusual. It
Right.
happens.
Yes.
And it still causes um, some undercurrents in
Yeah.
the family, because my husband was not at all happy. I understood it better
Mhm.
because I, had done that emotion. I knew that nobody owed me a kidney.
Mhm.
Uh, I knew that I wasn't more entitled to life than anyone else. But his love for me was, well, why not? Why can't he give it?
And
So
say to Jane Doe, give us your kidney, right?
that's right. And
Wow.
but it is not unusual. When I had to go back to the hospital and say this has fallen through, they were just like, well, it happens.
Hmm.
That happens. But
Hmm.
it was a lot of trauma
Of
on the
course.
family to have
Of course.
me be so ill, even though I was kind of an outlier in the family. I don't know about other families, but they just opened their arms back up
Of
and,
course.
you know,
Well, it was trauma, trials, but also triumph. And
yeah,
I'd like to end this conversation on a pretty high note. You dedicated the memoir to three people who were your cohorts in
yes,
the kidney in the dialysis center, and all three of them are not here anymore.
yeah,
I think that you came to an abiding solidarity, as you mentioned just a minute ago, that you are us.
yes.
To wrap up our conversation, tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, um, I couldn't, once I started to get to know those three people, one's name was T, and I think he affected me most. He reminded me of my Uncle Bobby, a beautiful, beautiful Black man that had all kinds of physical issues. Um, my uncle had been a drug addict and he died. And T had kidney disease. He was chemically dependent. He was homeless, but he was the most, he had many strokes, but he was the most beautiful person. And we just got to really vibe with each other. Um, uh, Clint, Clint was my nemesis. Clint would always hit on me every time I walked into the dialysis center. But he reminded me of the older dudes that would on my block when I was growing up. They would always say, "Hey, Miss B," that. And Cassandra, who opened up her life to me and told me about why she wasn't getting another kidney. These people embraced me. And I knew that they were the family that I needed to get through that dialysis situation. And but when I had my kidney transplant, I went back to visit the center. It took me a while, but I did. And all three of them were gone.
Yeah, which is a typical story for people who are on dialysis. The life expectancy is kind of low. Is that not true?
The life expectancy is somewhere between 7 to 10 years. That's why if you want to take care of yourself before you have high blood pressure, before you have diabetes, which are both of those, diabetes and high blood pressure, are both, uh, they are both things that can cause your kidneys
Hmm.
to fail. So you want to try to stay in as good a health as possible.
Hmm.
And if you get kidney disease, they're starting to experiment now with some medications that can stave off some of these issues for some time, but there's still no cure
Mhm.
for either FSGS or kidney disease generally. So, yeah, that's not unusual. I lost my three friends. Um, and I feel like because I did have some benefits, I did have health care, I was able to advocate for myself, that I kind of have um, a reason to continue to keep taking care of myself, uh, to live as long as I can live.
Uh-huh. And I guess we'll end. I want you to give us a call to action. For the Black women and any of our friends and allies who are watching, what's your parting shot, Bernadine?
My parting shot is go to the doctor, have a physical, and when you have that physical, ask them to check your kidney function. And then follow up on that, because often the doctors won't just check it unless you ask for it. Ask them to tell me tell your numbers, your creatinine level, your GFR. Those are all numbers that go with your kidney disease, your kidney function. And that's on the one hand. And on the other hand, if you don't have a spiritual practice, and I'm not a technically religious person, but develop a spiritual practice so that you will have something to fall back on. Uh, a yoga, meditation, something where you can go and be by and talk to yourself about what you are going to do. How are you going to live? What kind of person do you want to be, sick or healthy? And I think those are the two things that I would leave you with.
Thank you so much. And much success on your memoir and your continued journey for life and living. Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much for having me. Thank you.